Okay, we're still working in 9.8b, so let's just pick up at problem 3. That is x squared minus cd equals cx minus dx. Don't let all these letters confuse you. We're just looking at the quadratic form of it all. A quadratic formula is where you've got one x or unknown number to a power. You've got, maybe a coefficient times half of that power plus just a regular number equals 0. That's a roughly explained way to explain what a quadratic formula is. But we're just looking at our x as a square. There's our single x power, and there's our regular number. Okay, that'll make sense in a minute if it doesn't now. Alright, so I hope that you are comfortable with changing sides, changing signs, because I'm just going to do it with these two. I want everything on one side. Minus cx plus dx. All of that equals 0. Just change sides, change their signs. Okay, that's a minus right there. Okay, now my x squared value is in front like it should be. My x value should be next. So I'll say minus x times, and I'm just going to put my c, my d in the middle. I put a minus on the d because it'll get plus when you multiply the negative to it. Okay, minus cd, that's my regular number. That's my 4, in this problem. Okay, let me think of how I could maybe factor this or work this problem. I've got all my stuff lined up how I want it. X squared value, my x value, and my regular number value. I'm going to do factoring because I know that this problem will allow me to do that. Then I want you to also try doing it with the quadratic equation and make sure, because that quadratic equation can really take anything and you can just plug it in and it'll work. But I've found a way to factor this that works, and you can check it. This end product right here is just c times d. So I'm just going to write a c and a d right here. Let's make sure I get my signs right. Just looking at how these are related, I'm going to choose a negative for my c and a positive for my d. Now real quick, let's just check, make sure this works out. X squared plus dx. Make sure it comes to what I had here or up here. X squared plus dx minus cx minus d squared plus dx minus cx minus, not d squared, I don't know what I was thinking, cd. Yeah, so it does come to the same problem. This little step right here was just to check my work and make sure I had factored right. This little guy right here is what I'm really going to use. Okay, so I've got two factors now. See, originally I had everything being added up, and that was just not, I wasn't able to solve for anything. Now I've got two factors that are being multiplied. X minus c needs to be able to equal 0, and x plus d. What would it take for it to equal 0? Well, let's find that out. Let's just isolate x. X equals c. Of course it does, because c minus c would be 0. So x equals c is one of my answers. And x plus d, just change sides, change sign. X would be negative d. And of course, because negative d plus d would be 0. Now, looks like I've got my two answers, but you always have to check and make sure you don't have one that is extraneous. Spell that word. Meaning you found two roots that could work, but somewhere something was lost in this process. You have to be able to plug it back in and make sure that it works. So I'm just going to put a checking spot out here to the right, and let's just plug it in. Let's try making x be a c. Everywhere that there was an x squared in my original, I'm going to write c. Or an x. In my original problem, I'm going to write c instead. So I had x squared minus cd equals cx minus dx. Alright, let's just put c into all of that. Make sure that that is a true equation. C squared. I'm going to put a question mark so that you understand. I don't know if this is a true equation yet. I'm checking my work. c squared minus cd, does it equal c squared minus, wow, cd? Yeah. Okay, let's plug in again. X squared minus cd equals cx minus dx. Now instead of c, let's plug in, that one is not extraneous, that one works. Let's see if this one's extraneous. Plug in a negative d wherever there was an x. Okay, so negative d squared is just d squared. Minus cd equals negative cd plus d squared. And again, very same, it equals. Alright, that's problem 3. Alright, let's try to do problem 4. Okay, problem 4 should be pretty simple. X squared minus 4bx minus 12b squared all equals 0. Okay, we've got it all set up for us. We've got our x squared value and our x value. So this one really can just simply be factored. You just have to study it for a minute. I know that they all have an x here. I can tell I'll have a b on either one of these to make b squared. Well, let's just look at the middle though. What do I need that can be added to make a negative 4 but multiplied to make a negative 12? Well, you do the math for a second and you'll figure out it's a negative 6 and a positive 2. Check your work real quick. Remember, this is the part we're really worried about keeping. But we got to check our work just to make sure we're on the right track. That'd be x squared minus 6bx, I'm sorry, 6bx plus 2bx minus 12b squared. Okay, that matches negative 6 plus 2 will be a negative 4. So yes, that does work. Let's look at our factoring now. I have two factors. One of these needs to be 0 in order to make this a true equation. So what would it take for this one to be 0? What would it take for this one to be 0? Okay, do your math real quick. X would be negative 2b